Priya Sharma and Michael Harris lived just a few steps apart in a quiet Los Angeles suburb, but their secret connection would turn an ordinary street into the scene of a shocking crime that no one could have predicted. In 2015, Priya Sharma stepped off a plane at Los Angeles International Airport, carrying with her the hope of a new beginning. She had married Raj only 3 years earlier, and though their life in Mumbai had been modest, it was filled with the comfort of family and familiarity. Moving to America was supposed to be their big leap forward, a chance to rise above financial strain and build the future they had always talked about. Raj had landed a job with a well-known tech company, and his excitement was contagious. Priya tried to share in his optimism, but beneath her smile, she carried quiet doubts. The new house in a suburban neighborhood looked like something out of a movie. Perfectly trimmed lawns, wide streets, and silence that felt almost too heavy compared to the noisy, crowded streets she had left behind. Raj settled into his work quickly, disappearing into long hours at the office, coding late into the night, and attending endless meetings. Priya's days, however, stretched on endlessly. She didn't have a job, her visa limited her opportunities, and the friends she had left behind in India were now half a world away. She tried to fill the emptiness with small routines, morning walks around the neighborhood, cooking elaborate meals, and video calls with her mother. But as weeks turned into months, the novelty of Los Angeles wore off. She found herself staring out the window more often, watching people pass by, wondering if she would ever feel at home in this foreign city. The loneliness dug deeper when she realized Raj hardly noticed her struggles. He was proud of what they had achieved, while Priya quietly felt like she was disappearing into the background of her own life. This isolation would soon push her toward choices she never imagined. It was during one of her long, lonely afternoons that Priya first noticed Michael Harris. He lived next door, a man in his late 30s who always seemed to be working on his garden or fixing something around his house. He carried himself with an easy confidence that immediately stood out in the otherwise quiet neighborhood. Their first interaction was casual. He offered a friendly smile and a wave while she was watering her plants. For Priya, it was the first genuine connection she had felt outside her marriage since arriving in Los Angeles. At first, their conversations were light. They exchanged comments about the weather, about the neighborhood, and about how different life in Los Angeles could be. Michael seemed curious about her background, asking small questions that made her feel interesting and seen. What began as brief exchanges over the fence soon became longer chats on the porch. Priya started looking forward to the moments when Raj left for work, knowing she might see Michael outside. Michael's attention filled a void. He complimented her cooking when she shared dishes, listened when she talked about her family back home, and showed genuine interest in her thoughts. He was attentive in a way Raj no longer seemed to be, and Priya found herself drawn to that warmth. Coffee invitations followed, then quiet afternoons spent together in his living room under the pretense of simple friendship. But the closeness between them grew quickly, crossing invisible lines that Priya never thought she would cross. What had started as companionship soon became something far more dangerous. Priya felt both exhilarated and guilty, caught between loyalty to her husband and a secret world that made her feel alive again. What she didn't realize was that Michael's interest was not casual. It was the beginning of an obsession. Michael's charm slowly shifted into something darker, and Priya was the first to notice the change. What once felt like light-hearted attention began to weigh heavily on her. He called her constantly when Raj was at work, and when she didn't answer, he left dozens of missed calls and text messages. At first, Priya dismissed it as eagerness, but soon the persistence became unsettling. She had expected their secret to remain a hidden corner of her life, something fleeting, but Michael seemed to want far more. He began pressuring her to leave her husband, painting vivid pictures of the life they could build together. Priya resisted, reminding him quietly that she had made vows and that her marriage, though imperfect, was something she could not abandon. Michael's response to her hesitation was anger wrapped in desperation. His visits became uninvited, his tone demanding rather than kind. Neighbors occasionally noticed him pacing outside Priya's home at odd hours, lingering in his car late into the night, and watching her windows with an intensity that unsettled even those who only saw glimpses. When Priya tried to create distance, Michael grew more dangerous. He left handwritten notes slipped under her door, some pleading for her affection, others threatening to expose everything to Raj. The words carried a chilling weight, as though he was testing how far he could push her fear. Priya, caught between the shame of her secret and the terror of Michael's obsession, confided in no one. She worried that admitting the truth would destroy her marriage and her family's trust forever. Each day, the pressure mounted. What had once been a thrilling escape from loneliness now felt like a trap closing in around her. Priya sensed that Michael was no longer willing to take no for an answer, and she began to fear that something terrible was inevitable. The night everything unraveled began quietly, with Raj leaving work earlier than usual after a canceled meeting. The sky was heavy with summer heat as he drove through the quiet streets toward home, unaware of the nightmare waiting behind his front door. When he arrived, he immediately noticed something strange. The front door was ajar. Raj's first thought was that Priya had simply forgotten to lock it, but the uneasy silence inside the house told a different story. The living room looked disturbed. A lamp was knocked over, cushions scattered across the floor, and a picture frame lay shattered near the sofa. Raj's unease deepened as he moved quickly through the house, calling out for his wife. There was no response. Upstairs, the sight that greeted him was one he would never forget. Priya lay crumpled near the edge of their bed, unconscious and covered in injuries that spoke of violent struggle. For a moment, Raj froze in shock, then rushed to her side, desperate to wake her. Her shallow breathing told him she was still alive, but only barely. Emergency services were called immediately, and paramedics fought to save her as she was rushed to the hospital. Raj followed in a daze, replaying the horrifying images in his mind. At the hospital, doctors worked frantically, but within hours Priya's injuries proved too severe. She was pronounced dead that night, leaving Raj shattered with grief and confusion. Back at the house, detectives pieced together the crime scene. Fingerprints matching Michael were found on the bedroom doorframe, and Priya's phone revealed a flood of unanswered messages from him in the hours leading up to the attack. To the police, the evidence painted a grim picture. The neighbor next door had crossed a line that ended in tragedy, and now he was gone. In the days following Priya's death, investigators turned their attention fully toward Michael Harris. His sudden disappearance only deepened suspicion. Detectives canvassed the neighborhood, piecing together sightings from residents who had noticed Michael lurking near the Sharma home in the days before the attack. Surveillance cameras showed his car leaving the area the night of the crime, a detail that transformed him from neighbor to prime suspect. A statewide alert was issued, and police tracked his movements with growing urgency. His car was later discovered abandoned near the edge of the Mojave Desert, the keys still inside. The discovery raised more questions than answers. Had he fled into the desert, hoping to disappear, or was he planning something more elaborate? Investigators searched the area, but found no sign of him. Attention then turned to Michael's home, where detectives uncovered journals and notebooks scattered across his bedroom. The writings were disturbing. Page after page detailed his obsession with Priya, from the day they met to elaborate fantasies of a future together. His words revealed a dangerous progression from infatuation to fixation, with chilling notes about how he could never let her go. These discoveries left no doubt that Priya had been the target of a calculated obsession. The case gripped the media, turning Michael into a symbol of how quickly a quiet suburban life could spiral into violence. Weeks passed before a breakthrough came. A tip led authorities to Nevada, where Michael was found living under a false identity, staying in cheap motels, and using cash to avoid detection. His capture ended a tense manhunt, but it also confirmed what investigators had suspected all along. Michael had been prepared to vanish and start over, carrying with him the shadow of a crime that had shocked everyone who knew him. The trial of Michael Harris became one of the most closely watched cases in Los Angeles that year. Courtrooms filled with reporters, neighbors, and members of the local Indian community who came to hear the details of how an ordinary man's obsession had spiraled into deadly violence. The prosecution painted a picture of a calculated crime, showing jurors the journals from Michael's home, the threatening notes to Priya, and the overwhelming digital trail of his harassment. Each piece of evidence pointed to a man consumed by jealousy, unwilling to accept rejection. Michael's defense tried to argue that the death was unintentional, claiming he had gone to Priya's home that night only to confront her, not to kill her. But the brutality of the injuries, combined with his attempt to flee across state lines, weakened his claims. Witnesses described his obsessive behavior, from lurking outside her home to sending endless messages. The image of a desperate but dangerous man grew stronger with each day of testimony. Raj sat through the proceedings in silence, his grief evident. To many, he became the most tragic figure of the trial, a husband who not only lost his wife, but also discovered a secret life he never knew she was living. When the verdict was finally read, the jury found Michael guilty of murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole, ensuring he would never again walk free. For Raj, the verdict brought little comfort. He returned to India with Priya's ashes, leaving behind the house that had once symbolized hope, but had instead become a place of betrayal and loss. The neighborhood never forgot the tragedy, a haunting reminder that behind the perfect facades of suburban homes, hidden stories and dangerous obsessions can unfold with devastating consequences.